All right. How are we, everyone? How are we doing? Yes, good. Welcome, hello. We have some beautiful faces in the audience, right here. We have a VIP in the front. Our house artist, Simon Narvaez, is here incognito. If you saw any of the art in the front, it's Simon's art. Simon's art is traveling all over the world on gray sweatpants, on attractive men in Puerto Vallarta, at Manny's. That's it, basically, those two places. Glad you're here. Welcome to Manny's. For those of you who haven't been here before, Manny's is a physical, civic, and political event and gathering space. We host events for the community. We also have a nonprofit restaurant in the front. So all of you who purchase food and drink, thank you for supporting Farming Hope. 100% of the food and beverage sales here go to Farming Hope, and we really love working with them. It'll be 3 years in 3 weeks. We're celebrating our 3-year anniversary. Soon we have 2 former Manny's employees in the audience. We have Sam Favela, who's hiding over there. And we have Jupiter Peraza over here, who will be leading tonight's event. And I just want to say thank you very much for showing up tonight. We really appreciate it. There is another event happening in the front. It is our monthly story time, where people will tell their stories, whatever stories they have. And it's themed, and this month the theme is costumes. I'm gonna quickly ask you all to take a second and introduce yourself to someone around you that you don't know. And just say what's one thing you're looking forward to tonight. So take a second and introduce yourself to someone around you that you do not already know. Go, take 30 seconds and go ahead and do it.
Yes. Why do you support?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm similar. I'm just interested in hearing about understanding, right?
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah.
It's just like a short. It's a short little moment. But if you enjoyed meeting that person, or if you continue to enjoy meeting that person, that's great. Like you can just leave right now. Like you can hang out with them. No, don't do that. We want you here. Okay, everyone, focus on me for a second, real quick. I just want to take a second and thank, from the bottom of my heart, the 2 executive directors of the organizations that worked on this event with us, co-programmed this event. Arya Saeed over there in the back, the executive director of the Transgender District. And yeah, round of applause for Arya Saeed. And you make everyone else look less glamorous, just like you. So.
No, that's not true. We'll talk about this in a session.
Okay.
That's my story.
Amazing. And then Nicole Santa Maria, who's the executive director of Para TransLatinas. I want to thank Nicole as well. An amazing, amazing organization that's been here for a really long time and it's amazing work. Without further ado, I am going to hand it over to the incredible Jupiter Peraza to introduce tonight's conversation. And I just want to thank her for jumping right into it and moderating. We really, really appreciate it. Obviously, of course, excited to hear you tell your own story as well. So I think that's it. Anything else? Everyone feeling good? We alive? All right. Okay, Jupiter, to you. Good night and goodbye.
Hi, everybody. How are we doing? Hey, how are you? Sorry, I just see a lot of familiar faces, but also very distant faces. I used to work here at Manny's, and I would always do these kinds of events, also jumping in right away when need be. So this is quite exciting. And I was so happy to return to the Manny's stage, the 2 inches off the ground stage, to do this wonderful conversation with one of our sister organizations in San Francisco. I now have the pleasure and the honor of working for the Transgender District And this conversation on being trans and Latinx was something that was so special to me because I am trans and I am Latinx. And doing this with the ladies of Para TransLatinas was, something so special. But I wanted to introduce them. ¿Listas? Okay. So I wanted to introduce them one by one. You have Victoria Castro, Tania Jimenez, and Sofia Rios Orantes. How's everybody doing? Thank you for coming to this talk. And to Simone, I've always seen your work all around San Francisco, so for you to be in this conversation means a lot. Thank you. ¿Cómo están? Buenas noches.
Buenas noches. We are very good. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being here tonight. Sorry about my English. It's my second language, so sometimes it's kind of hard for myself.
Yeah, same. I got you. So thank you to her. I actually ran into her a few weekends ago when I went to the Trans Disability March in Sacramento. So it's such a pleasure to see her again. But yes, without further ado, this conversation is just a time for us to get to know one another because we obviously have many things in common from just our journey and where we come from and our diaspora, which I think is so important, especially as TransLatinas. But I want to hear your story. There is so much in between from where we are now and what happened prior that I just want to know about you. What is something that you want to tell me? Something that drives you, that inspires you, something that you think about.
Sophia, you want to start?
Sophia, kick us off.
You're the lucky one.
Yes. Oh my God, thank
Sophia.
you. Sophia. Well, where to start? I'm a Latina. I want to say this in Spanish because I like it how it sounds in Spanish. It's like, soy una mujer trans, latina, indígena, mexicana. ¿Y por qué lo digo? And why I say that? Bien, mis papás, mis abuelos vienen de una raza indígena, la raza azteca. Mis padres, mi papá hablaba náhuatl, mi mamá habla náhuatl. Yo hablo un poco de náhuatl, lo entiendo, y realmente llegó un momento en el que yo dije que no quería perder el náhuatl, porque es parte de mi persona, es part of the person who I am. So I don't want to lose that part, and it's very important in my life. And that's why I say that I am a transgender woman, indígena. And I moved to the United States in 2001 when I was just 22 years old. Believe it or not, I'm 42 right now. I'm from 1979. And I moved to the United States and I came to North Carolina, Raleigh, North Carolina, where I used to live for the past 15 years. Well, actually, it was 5 years ago. So, and I used to move to San Francisco in 2016. And why I decided to came here? Well, in 2015, I decided to start my life comenzar mi vida siendo quien realmente sentía que yo era. Because before that, I was like trying to be, well, I was trying to be like just gay, because most of the transgender women start like a gay person, because you really don't know what to do. You're like, okay, I feel like I like a man, but you feel like you don't get, no encajas en un sitio, like that piece of you is not from that side, like
It doesn't fit in.
I don't fit it in the gay community. And I was in 2015, I decided to start doing my transition. So when I was in Raleigh, North Carolina, I was like, okay, I want to start transitioning. I want to start getting my hormones and everything. But my friends told me, like, okay, now that you transition it, you have to start, you have to change your name and do it legally and everything. So I started to look in there in North Carolina, and actually it was kind of hard for myself to do that, because I'm not United States citizen. So it was kind of hard for myself. And I was like, well, I want to live like just with my older name. And I was like, well, I don't care. But my friends started saying to me, like, you have to move to California, you have to go to San Francisco, you have to change your name. So you have to go there. And I was like, well, I don't know. My life, it was in Raleigh, North Carolina. I had a stability there. I used to have a job. I was working in the same place for 10 years, and I was fine there. And I was like, okay, why to go to California? Why to go some other place? I have to start things, from the beginning. So it was kind of hard for myself, but I decided to come. And as soon as I got here and I started doing the process to change my name and my gender, and start my process to be legally in this country, it made me feel a free person. As soon as I got the name change and my gender change, I was like, Sophia, you actually free. Sophia, you actually the person you always be thinking you are, but it was kind of hard to take out of that shell. So I'm so happy to be here in California. I'm so happy to be here in San Francisco, because it's here where I finally think that my dreams came true. The dreams I was having by the time I left Mexico, where I am from, and now I'm like, Sophia, you finally did that part. But actually, it's not the end of my dreams. I know I have more and more and more. And I don't want to say that I'm fighting for them, because I'm in a place where all the dreams can come true. So I'm so happy to be here with you and tell part of my journal and tell you part of my life, part of being Sophia in this not this country, in this world. So I guess everybody can be free, but everybody don't have the chance to be free. So I celebrate myself, because I got freedom here in San Francisco. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Sophia.
Thank Thank you everyone for being here today. So my English is so bad. Así que voy a hablar en español para no perderme. Pero gracias por estar aquí a todos. Este tipo de reuniones, este tipo de momentos para mí son muy significativos. Creo que cada historia de nosotros tiene mucho valor, mucho amor, y creo que cada uno hemos luchado nuestra historia desde nuestras trincheras y tenemos una gran historia, ¿no? Cada uno desde muchos años atrás. Personalmente tengo una historia muy dura, pero casi nunca me gusta compartirla o victimizar mi historia, pero creo que es importante ser visible en estos lugares por las nuevas generaciones de personas trans, comunidad LGBT en general que llega a nuestra vida, a nuestros espacios.
Espérame, perdón, pero quiero que todos entiendan. Sí está bien si te, okay. So Victoria just wants to thank all of you for being here, for being a part of this conversation. And she also wanted to tell her story and why it's important to her, because in this day and age, trans visibility is highly critical and highly important, not just for oneself, but also for future generations of trans people.
Y sí, pues soy una mujer salvadoreña, una mujer trans, todavía luchando por tener un espacio, un estatus en este país. Tengo unos 10, 11 años aproximadamente trabajando para la comunidad trans desde El Salvador, y actualmente trabajando en Para TransLatinas, que es un lugar que me abrió las puertas a hacer lo que amo, trabajar con mi comunidad, que las personas que me conocen y están cerca de mí saben que soy demasiado alegre, demasiado divertida, y que siempre, aunque esté llena de dolor, pero siempre trato de llevar una sonrisa a las demás personas, porque creo que es muy importante para nosotros poder expresar la felicidad en medio del sufrimiento.
She is from El Salvador. She's been in the US for about 11 years. And she shares her struggles, not necessarily her struggles, but her immigration status, which is something that's very common for us, especially TransLatinas. But she also mentions how despite the struggle, despite the hardship, she always finds a way to channel that into happiness and joy, and being there for community through the work that she does at Para TransLatinas, which to her is so important.
Yeah, creo que mi historia ha sido como, no sé, a veces recuerdo mis cicatrices, veo mis cicatrices de mi cuerpo por toda la transfobia que sufrí en El Salvador. Luché muchísimo en El Salvador para poder dar lo mejor de mí, para apoyar a mi comunidad trans, a encontrarme a mí misma, ya que tuve una transición desde los 12, 13 años. Entonces fue muy duro en un país como El Salvador cambiar tu apariencia de masculina a femenina y siendo tan pequeña. Entonces,
she mentions that she still sees the scars on her body from transitioning at such a young age, at just 12 years old in El Salvador. And the scars are a testament of all the violence that she faced as a visible trans person in a country that was not in any way accepting of trans people.
En medio de toda la historia de mi vida, algo que quiero como recalcar y que me gustó que mencionó Sofía es en el momento que encuentras tu libertad, que eres libre a ti misma. Viví como una mujer muchos años en El Salvador y creo que nunca me he sentido tan libre como mujer como estos 4 años que tengo viviendo en Estados Unidos, por haber podido cambiar mi nombre, haber podido tener mi transición, haber podido lograr cosas que el país que me vio nacer quiso borrar, ¿no? Entonces, sentir esa libertad, sentir el amor de la comunidad, conocer otras personas que han pasado por tantas situaciones, me hace cada día querer despertarme, querer sonreír y querer compartir con mi comunidad y estar en la ciudad, estar en otra y compartiendo con las personas. Creo que esa es victoria, ¿cómo puedo decir? Esa persona libre que siempre está queriendo dar un poquito de sí con otras personas.
She mentions that she lived many years as a woman in El Salvador, but in alignment to what Sophia said, that all those years cannot compare to the true freedom of living as your authentic self in a city like San Francisco, in which you have tangible things that you can tether to yourself, like having an ID that has your name and the gender in which you express as, which is why she finds a reason to wake up every single day and feel happy and feel joy because of that profound sense of freedom, in the same way that Sophia was mentioning.
Y también es muy importante para mí en mi historia llegando aquí, también debemos recordar, ¿no?, lo duro que fue también estar en un centro de detención. No sé, algunas personas de las que están aquí regularmente me ven que estoy en campañas para poner fin a las detenciones de personas trans, porque personalmente sufrí mucho dolor estando en un centro de detención aquí, y eso, sumado a todo el dolor, la transfobia, la discriminación que sufrí en El Salvador, pienso que hace ser quien soy y querer luchar cada día por estar en espacios con personas maravillosas como ustedes y poder compartir y luchar por mi comunidad, por nuestra comunidad, que es lo importante, y abrir espacios, ¿no? Y llevar el mensaje de unidad, de comunidad, y siempre demostrar el amor como personas, ¿no? Entonces, como persona latina que ha pasado por mucho, ¿no? Como muchas de las personas que estamos aquí, también es importante para mí expresar que el amor y la comunidad, como lo estamos demostrando este día, es importante y nos hace ser fuertes cada día.
She shares her time in ICE detention, and the difficulty and the limitations of being in ICE detention, and how that translated into herself now. And what she mentions that is so important, especially what we're doing right now, is being in community and loving one another and accepting one another, which to her is one of, it's a core pillar of what she believes is, happiness.
Y pues, lo siento por no compartir tanto de mi historia muy personal, pero es como mucho reto para mí. Entonces, ya, gracias por estar aquí y también.
Gracias, Victoria.
Hello everyone, thank you for being here. My name is Tania Jimenez and I'm also a transgender woman. I am 38 years old, Mexican. I'm gonna start since I came to the US. It was in 1996. We came with my parents, immigrants, we crossed the border illegally. We got here in 96. It was really tough for me, I didn't know I was a trans woman because back then I didn't know who I was. I knew I wasn't a straight person because I didn't like, I was attracted to men already. I knew that I was attracted to guys. So it was kind of hard, go to school, not speaking the language. So go to school with other friends and try to be in class and try to, do the homework, and not understanding what they were saying. So it was tough. It was really tough. My teenage, it was really tough. Though I was lucky, I was bullied by anyone by being different, by being gay. And then after that, I was in middle school 2 years. Then I went to high school. That was a little tough when I went to high school. And when I was working, I told my mom that I was gay. It was a show going on called Christina. I don't know if you guys know any about that show.
Yeah.
And they were talking about LGBT, about gay. So I told my mom, what would you do if you know that I was gay? So my mom said, well, I'm still gonna love you no matter what. So that's when I told my mom, I said, well, I'm gay. And she said, I knew, but I was just waiting for you to tell me. And it was really nice. So my mom is still a great support and my family. And then she said, but don't tell your dad. Just wait. We can get him ready, my dad, how the Hispanic, the males, the machismo. So we wait till like when I was in high school, when I was 18, my dad was wondering why there were no women, so why I didn't see me with any girlfriends. And I decided, we decided to tell my dad as well. And he didn't say, well, I knew, oh, congratulations. He was really mad, he was a little upset, but he got over it. Now I get along well with my dad. And then I finished high school. I met a boyfriend, and it was my first boyfriend. So I met a boyfriend who asked me to move with him to North Carolina. So I moved as well, Sophia, to North Carolina. And I spent 50 years of my life in North Carolina. And that's where Tanya was born in North Carolina. Because here in California, in Anaheim, when I was in high school, because I was just gay. But I'm only drag, I was just getting dressed up on the weekends when we would go out, stuff like that. But I never, I wasn't living as a trans woman 24/7. So we moved to North Carolina, and I decided that I wanted it to be Tanya 24/7. So I made the decision. I said, I talked to my parents, and they said, okay. And with my mom, and she said, okay. Then after I was 24 when I got my breast augmentation in North Carolina. And that was, oh my God, that was the best thing I ever done. I feel very happy. And I was happy in North Carolina. I was really happy in North Carolina. I love North Carolina. The only thing, like Sophia was saying, it's tough for us to get a job. It's tough to get opportunities and to be who you really want to be, because you're hiding. You go look for a job, and they see you as a woman, but when they see your identification as a male, they don't give you the job. They deny the job. So it was really tough. I kind of suffer a lot getting a job in North Carolina. And but I heard about San Francisco. They were helping you with the identifications, with the jobs, opportunities, and all that. And I wasn't sure, if I wanted to come here or not. I was scared. Trust me. If you guys would have met me 3 years ago, I'm not the person I would be. I was very shy. I didn't like to talk. I was an insecure person about my voice. I didn't like it. It was tough back then. I used to work in a factory the whole time, or like the whole 50 years that I was living in North Carolina. Now I work for Para TransLatinas, who is a nonprofit transgender organization, Help Latina, which I'm really proud of it. And I'm happy, I'm happy that I make the decision to move to San Francisco. And the reason I moved to San Francisco, it wasn't because of me, it wasn't because the political asylum. I was seeking the sex change, the vaginal plastic. That's what I was seeking. That's what I really wanted it to do. And I tried to get it done in North Carolina, but I couldn't because of no insurance. They don't cover it. They don't have no help in San Francisco who will pay for it. So it was really tough. So that was the main thing. I decided to move to San Francisco just to get my vaginal plastic. And as you know, I'm gonna follow the dream, I'm gonna go for it. Like if you don't cross the river, you don't know what's on the other side. So I took the risk, like I was like in my comfort zone. I had a job, I had a good job, I have friends, I had family, and I decided to leave everything just to follow my dream. So I moved to San Francisco without know where I was gonna live, without know anything, just with $1,000 in my pocket, just for paying for rent in my car. So I went to live, and I was doing live without knowing the city. I never been here in San Francisco, so I was doing live for rent that weekend, and I was trying to make the money to pay for the rent. And then when I went to get my hormones at the mission in neighborhood the resource center, right in Cafe 16. Captain 16. It was a trans woman in there, and she said, well, she asked me if I had any social security. I said yes. She said, and you speak English? I said, yeah, I speak a little bit English. She said, they're hiring people in here, so you get a job, and they offer Kaiser, and you could get your surgery like faster than help in San Francisco. Otherwise, I was gonna take too long. And my plan was just to come here, get my surgery, and move back to North Carolina, because I wanted to just come for the surgery. And I'm still here. And I said, okay, so I applied. And then when I remember when I went to the interview, and they said if I had experience to work with the homeless community. And I said, well, I never had no experience. I said, well, do you have experience working with people with, found with drugs? And I said, well, my brother used to use drugs. He was doing no more. So I guess I have the experience. I talked to my brother, and now he's clean. He's clean, and I mean, like, I could do the job. Just give me the opportunity. I can do the job. And they said, okay, we're gonna give you on call. Whenever I said, okay, that's fine. And I got on call, and then after 3 months, I was full time with insurance and everything. And I had my first surgery, and then I had my second surgery, and then I had my third. In a year, I already had what I wanted it to do. So I had my vaginoplasty, that was my dream. I had it done, and that was the happy day of my life. My family was here, so that was my happy day in my life. I got it done, and now I'm still here. And I was working at the resource center, and I was also volunteering in Para TransLatinas. So I was doing volunteer work, and that's the way I think we all started before getting that job. We were volunteer. I was cooking, we were cleaning, and everything, and then. I was a participant as well, and then they opened the position for a program coordinator, and I applied for the position. There were 6 people who applied, and I got the job. And last year, they promoted me to program manager. So now I'm the program manager at Para TransLatinas, and I'm still there. And I am so happy. I got the support from my family, my dad, my mom, my sister, my brothers, like all my family. I'm a very happy person, and I'm happy to be here with you guys. So that's part of my stuff. I don't know if you guys have any questions.
So is San Francisco home?
Oh my God, that's a tough question.
Está como en dos.
I got 3 homes.
She has 3 homes, okay.
And it's South California, Anaheim, where my parents live, North Carolina, and then San Francisco. Don't ask me where should I be, because I will pick North Carolina again. Right. I love North Carolina, so I was there this weekend. I just got here today. Yeah, so I'm there all the time. I love North Carolina. I think I see myself going back home, North Carolina.
Tanya, you shared something that is very uncommon for in Mexican culture, which is sort of having acceptance from family. How did your dad react when you first came out? Because on my experience, it was harder coming out as gay than coming out as trans to my family.
Well, like I said at the beginning, my dad, was mad. He wasn't like my mom. Like my mom said, "Oh, it's okay." And my daddy was tough. And he was mad. Especially because I'm the older. He was expecting me to have a girlfriend. Like a family. Have a wife, or their kids and everything. I'm glad my brother had kids. I'm glad my brother had kids. I'm glad it's up to you, Daddy. I'm glad I had kids. So yeah, so it was kind of tough, but he got over it. Probably took him a year. It took him a year to process, and it was so nice, and it was so weird because my grandma, you know, she didn't went to school. My grandma doesn't know how to write or anything, and my grandma was telling my dad that they had to accept me the way I was, you know, and it was surprising from all people, you know, because they don't go to school, you know, they haven't, you know, really telling about the LGBT community. So it was nice that my grandma was telling about my dad, you know, you have to accept her the way she is and everything. And I remember one day when I visit family, I was living in North Carolina and I went to visit my mom, my parents, and my dad was there. The first time my dad saw me was at my sister quinceañera. That's when my dad started for the first time as a Tanya. So I was scared, but you know, he hugged me, he said he loved me, so that was really nice. And then after that, like I think 6 months later, I went back and visited my family. And the first gift that I got from my dad, it was a woman's perfume, a cologne. So it was really nice, you know, because for dad to give you, you know, a present, you know, I think it was really nice. So I still remember. And now I get along very well with my dad, as well as my mom, and I got a super fun family. So it wasn't really tough for me,
Right.
but I know another sister, it's been rough.
And it all started with Cristina.
And also with Cristina. And also with Cristina.
Cristina is all of our trans mother. I'm just kidding.
Yes.
For those of you that don't know Cristina, so Cristina is like the Oprah of Hispanic television. And she was like on air for like years, and she would like bring on like TV personalities and musicians. And she had this like blonde bob. And she would always come on after like all the telenovelas aired, and like, you know, you would like, you know, sit in the couch and you would watch it with your family. So that's what we were mentioning, that Cristina is our trans mother, because she always talked about like the, you know, the very hot, contentious topics in our culture. But I want to hear about your relationship with family. And, you know, I mean, you are more than welcome to talk about your chosen family or, you know, your blood family, but how does family play a role in who you are?
Oh, wow. It's kind of hard for myself. Well, my mom and what I know now, it's my mom, she told me after that decide to start transitioning, that she knew that I was different, or I was a girl since the beginning. But the thing is, she didn't understand. And the only thing she wants to do is she just want to take care of myself. And she wants nobody else trying to hurt me because I was different. And I remember that it was kind of hard to let my parents know that I was gay in that time. Actually, I hear my dad and my mom, they were talking one night, and it was like, my mom was, my mom was like, well, I want to ask you something about our child, about our son. What do you think? What are you gonna say if you knew that he is, you know, like girls? And my dad was like, well, I have family had related. I mean, relatives that they are gay, so it's nothing to say. I mean, I will accept him as he is. And I was like, I was listening actually. They didn't know that I was listening. But my mom was like, well, I guess he's gay. So whatever, if he or she decides to come to us and tell us that he's gay, well, we have to support him. And well, I decided to tell him that I was gay at that time. That was in 1997, 1998, I guess, when I was finishing my high school there in Mexico. And I was, they accepted me, even my dad was like, it was accepting me more. And well, that was in that time, and I was living as a gay male for a long time until I decided to transitioning. So it's always, how can I say this? And between my parents and I, it was all the trust, all the
Confidentiality.
yes, that confidentiality between them and I. So I was like always tell them what I was doing in my life. It was they were beside being my parents, they be my friends. So I always have to let them know what I was doing it. Because I don't want nobody else come to them and say, you know what, your son or your daughter doing this, I don't care. So I decided to tell them at the beginning. I mean, I always have to tell them what I was doing and what it was in my life and everything. So when I decided to transition in, I told my mom and I told my dad, and my dad was like, whatever makes you happy, that's fine. So it's good for me. But he don't, I told him what would my name will be, but he didn't call me that way. So it was fine. We're still talking and everything, but my dad passed last year in September 2020. And it was kind of hard for myself here in the United States, and it's not easy to go back to Mexico to say goodbye. So this year in 2021, as a Latina, I have a little altar there next to me, next to my bed, with my dad's picture, and every night I have to put a candle in that one. So in January 2021, I was sleeping. I had a dream that I saw my dad, and I saw my dad walking by, and he tried to touch my cheek, and I was like, oh, Dad, I miss you a lot. And he was like, really, daughter? He called me daughter. And I was like, yes, Dad, I miss you a lot. So he said, yes, my daughter, yes, my child, I miss you too. So that day I realized that my dad accepted me since the beginning. I understand that it was probably he don't want to say it with words while he was feeling, but actually he said it with his heart. It probably wasn't in person, but actually it was in my dreams. And since that day, I haven't dreamed about my dad anymore. Before that, it was like dreaming like probably once a month after he passed. So since this last time when he called me daughter, it was the last time I dreamed about it. And I was like, it was very, very, very pretty. It was very emotional. And now I know, and now I can tell that my dad accepted me, but on his way.
Thank you. You mentioned a lot of things that I also relate to. You know, every culture has their own ways of interpreting experiences. For example, for many of us in the Latinx culture, and you know, being Latinx, especially being Mexican, you find a sense of peace and comfort in communication in dreams. It's something that is it's a common reoccurrence for us. I also I have communicated with my grandparents through dreams. And I always used to say that my grandparents passed away, them not knowing who I was. And I dreamt ever since with them, with my grandfather and my grandmother. And it's something that is so common for anybody. And the way that we find significance and meaning in something as normal as a dream. You know, I think it's so beautiful how we find interpretation and how you have found peace. And, you know, I have also found peace in my own way. But also, you know, through the use of imagery like an altar and a shrine. I don't know if any of you have been to the Para TransLatinas office, which is just down the street, but their sort of living room has this huge altar, this shrine of many trans people that have passed away on their journey to the US or have passed away under ICE detention. And it's just this huge shrine that covers wall to wall of pictures and candles and flowers and you know, offerings. And you know, I just think it's very indicative of the way that we find peace and the way that we find love in our community and in our culture, which is what Sophia mentioned. So thank you. Victoria, I want to hear from you. Tell me.
Sí, pues creo que mi historia con mis padres es muy larga y muy corta.
So she mentions that her story with her parents is both very short and very long.
Sí, creo que puedo identificar dos versiones con mis padres. Mi papá es mi superhéroe y mi mamá es como en una caricatura la villana del cuento, pero pues es parte de la cultura de El Salvador, ¿no? Entonces, la relación con mi mamá y conmigo ha sido, creo que muy corta. Creo que tengo de haber tomado mi cirugía de reafirmación de sexo como 1 año y medio. Y es hasta este momento en cuando mi mamá me reconoce como su hija y como Victoria. Entonces tengo de haber transicionado como 16, 17 años de mi vida, que tengo como 1 año y medio de tener una relación con mi mamá. Entonces ha sido como una nueva amiga para mí, como por tratar de borrar como ese cariño, como tratar de borrar todo lo malo y todo lo que la he extrañado, ¿no? En todo ese tiempo.
She mentions that her father was her superhero. In other words, as she's mentioned, her father was the protagonist, and her mother was the antagonist, the villain. Very, you know, an ode to what we know as telenovelas in our culture. But she mentions that her mother did not see her as Victoria. She did not see her as her daughter until 1.5 years after she got her SRS, which is sexual reassignment surgery. And even though she had transitioned 16 years ago, so she mentions that she's still having to grasp all that time without her mom, and having to reconcile all that time not being recognized or accepted by her into the now, despite everything that she has gone through.
Sí, creo que es muy interesante porque regularmente cuando una persona decide hacer una transición, regularmente es tu padre el que como que, no, ¿por qué? No hagas esto. Pero en mi historia fue mi mamá la que no, tú eres mi hijo y puedes hacer lo que quieras, pero nunca puedes vestirte de mujer. O sea, siempre he recordado toda mi vida esas palabras y ha sido como muy difícil no tener como, o sea, sé que mi madre me ama, pero no tener como ese soporte, ¿no? Pero mi papá ha sido mi superhéroe, o sea, siempre ha estado silencioso, sin decir no, sin decir sí, porque él dice, hija, amo a tu mamá, pero también te amo a ti porque eres mi hija. Y en medio de toda la diferencia del mundo, tú eres mi hija. Y ha sido como ese pilar que ha hecho que Victoria se mantenga en pie. Y es como mucho para mí. Y amo mi familia. Y en medio de tantas situaciones difíciles, estoy tan feliz ahora de poder escuchar hablar a mi mamá y decirme, hija, ¿cómo estás? O sea, para mí actualmente es muy satisfactorio.
She mentions how her father had to reconcile loving her as her daughter and also loving her mother. But also just how she found her father's acceptance as something that gave her strength throughout all these years. And to be able to have both her parents on her side and accept her just means everything to her. But you know, I just want us to think about how a lot of the stories that we've heard today are stories that have to do, you know, leaving somewhere, in a sense, fleeing somewhere to find yourself, to find true freedom. And in most cases, to do it in a place or in a country that is foreign to you, that is different in terms of language and culture and tradition. But having to undergo all of the struggle and hardship to be able to be yourself, there's real meaning and real joy in that. But also, I think something that we should really think about is that how despite all these stories coming to a country, this country, the United States, but to also, for this country to be one of the many countries that is sort of a haven for trans people, but also of all the terrible things that are happening to the trans community right now. It's just it's a very tough pill to swallow, that for many of us, this country and this place represents freedom. It represents happiness. But now that we're here and now that we're ourselves, when we look around and when we look at other people in our community, we can't help but think, wait, there's more struggle and there's more hardship. And how do you reconcile that? How do you, because it is so important to take into consideration how far you've come and who you are now, but for also to know that trans people here are being murdered, to be fully explicit. Trans people, Black and brown trans people that have the same color skin as us. How do you interpret your journey with the reality of trans people right now here?
Creo que todas las personas trans, independientemente de nuestra color, nuestra raza, de dónde vengamos, tenemos que pasar por muchas experiencias diferentes, ¿verdad? Creo que es importante también, en medio de todas estas situaciones, valorar todas las personas que han perdido la vida, que les han arrebatado la vida y que lucharon por que todos nosotros estemos aquí ahora. Y en medio de tanto dolor, seguir siendo la comunidad que somos. Siempre he pensado Y siempre creo y valoro mucho que como comunidad y con amor somos muy fuertes y podemos derrotar cualquier barrera que exista para nosotras. Cada uno de nosotros hacemos un trabajo excepcional desde donde estamos y creo que hay que seguir luchando, hay que seguir valorando cada oportunidad que la vida nos da, cada momento y pues ¿no? Es amarnos, ser comunidad y sí, y honrar el trabajo, el amor, la dedicación de cada uno de nosotros, porque hay muchos retos todavía que atravesar, hay muchas historias que vivir y otros han dejado de luchar, pero nosotros seguimos aquí luchando y hay que seguirlo, ¿no? Y hay que hacerlo con amor y con mucho cariño para todos.
So Victoria mentions that, many of the things that we have been through in a way shapes us to be the people that we are today, and how all that struggle, translates into our lived experiences today, and how we can see that in our community members and our community as a whole, how we are tenacious people, how we are strong, resilient, and there's always this perception or this expectation that trans people have to be strong, that we have to be resilient, that we have to go through hardship and struggle to be ourselves, but it doesn't have to be that way. Like as a trans person, it doesn't have, that shouldn't be the reality. But how are we doing on time, Manny? I forgot to tell my story, but I also wanna.
20 minutes probably.
20 minutes? Okay. Okay, perfect. Do you wanna hear my story? Is that even?
Yeah.
Wait. Okay. So I am also Mexican. So something that Tanya and Sophia, we both relate. I came to the US when I was 7 years old. And I lived in SoCal, in this small city that almost nobody knows. It's called Paramount, which is right next to Long Beach. People are like, oh yeah, I know Long Beach, but they don't know Paramount. But anyway, when I think about my journey, I always think of just having many layers to peel off. I feel like I knew before arriving at to the US that there was something unique, something special about me, but I just didn't know what it was. But also having to adapt to the culture and to the language just sort of added more things on top of it. It added more things on top of that confusion that I was already feeling. And for me, it took many years for me to be able to truly grasp what it was. I went to middle school, high school, and I still felt this sort of, what is it? I can't really put like my finger on it. I don't get it. I don't understand. And, I grew up in a very conservative Mexican Catholic household. Me and my parents used to watch a lot of telenovelas, and I know that we always keep going back to the telenovelas, but I have a theory that Televisa is actually a perpetrator of masculinity in Mexican culture. Because there's always this masculine figure, the feminine figure, and men have to behave this way, and women have to behave this way, and the help is only people that are indigenous and of darker color. Televisa is like propaganda, but that's a conversation for a different day.
Well, it's changing now. That was back in the day. Now
Right.
they have LGBT telenovelas.
Right. They used to have those episodes of La Rosa de Guadalupe where they would say, "Oh mom, I'm gay," and they would just be this dramatic, like, and she like faints, and it's like, "Oh my God, there's something wrong with me," and then they get taken to the therapist. Anyway, but yes, I grew up watching a lot of that, as you can imagine, as to why for me it was so difficult to be able to sort of point out or figure out who I was. And better as I went through, you know, middle school and high school. And when I was in high school, I started doing theater, which was very fun. You know, I consider myself a very dramatic person, so this was like perfect. But you know, I still didn't really know what it was. And I remember that I came to San Francisco like my sophomore year of high school, and I really liked the city, and I didn't really know why that was. It did remind me of the town from Twilight, which was Forks, because it was always so gloomy and so foggy. You know, just to invite you into how the two cultures sort of bled into one and I was created. But anyway, I also started watching this show called Looking. Have y'all ever heard about Looking? Leave out your But Looking was this TV show on HBO, and I just watched it because it I don't know, I just sort of it was sort of appealing to me, and it's centered on a group of gay white men that lived in San Francisco, and they were just like, you know, they were just living their life. It was very Sex and the City, but gay in San Francisco. If you actually go to Orphan Andy's in the Castro, which is my neighborhood, there's like a picture of like Looking, and they were like, in this table, they shot episode 7 of season 1. Anyway, but I don't know, like that just drew me to San Francisco, and I didn't really know why. And I applied to SF State, and I was like, Mom, Dad, I want to go to this city, and I don't know, I don't care what you say, I just want to move here. And you know, I really struggled with my parents because they really didn't understand why I wanted to come to San Francisco. But I came to San Francisco, and I really started to find myself, and it started to make sense. Just with my experience at college, taking classes on feminism, on ethnicity, very philosophical classes, and it really allowed me to look within. And you know, something in Mexican culture that they don't teach you is to look within. They don't. If there's something wrong with you, just don't think about it. Just forget it. You know. And that was something that I really struggled with, and even till this day, I really don't have a sense of connecting with myself, because we are conditioned to not think about it, to just survive, and just to look forward and not even consider it. But yeah, I just, after some time, I found who I was. And I remember I met Manny at Atlas Cafe, which is 20th and Alabama? Okay. Why did I say Alabama like sweet home? Anyway. But yeah, at that time I was really having trouble with where I was in life because there was things happening with DACA. I'm a DACA recipient, which is for children that arrived in the US when we were children. But anyway, I was having trouble with that because it had been taken away by the Trump administration. And at that time, I was really considering, who I was, and if they take DACA away, what does that mean for me? I've built this life in this country, and this is home, and this is where my sense of identity is. But what is my identity? Who am I? Is this really it? And I feel like at that time I had a sense of fearlessness. It was like a sense of, you know what? If things are gonna be taken away from me, I'm just gonna go for it. I'm just gonna be I'm not gonna care. I'm just gonna do everything that I've always wanted to do in this, 2-year time frame, because DACA expires after 2 years. And I was like, I'm just gonna go for it. And when my DACA expires, I'll see where I'm at, and I'll reconsider my position and where I want to go and what I want to do. And I started working here at Manny's, and I had access to healthcare, and I transitioned, and things just really changed. And I don't know, I feel like some of you might relate, but there was always that sense of despair. There was always that sense of sadness that I couldn't really, I don't know, it was always there. It was always looming over me, and I didn't really know what it was. Some of you are like sort of, yes, and it's because what I mentioned, that you don't really get to ask yourselves those questions as being, Latinx. You don't consider those things because you're not taught to consider them or believe them. But I feel like once I learned how to tap in with myself at such a young age, I really discovered who I was, and I was in a place that allowed me to do that. And something that I still struggle with till this day, and I was telling Ram about this, but I still am not able to go to my homeland, if you wish, or if you may. I have not been able to visit Mexico in like about 15 years. And I really want that for some odd reason. Well, it's not really odd, but I feel like you find or you discover new things about yourself when you go back to where you're from, or where you go back to a place that you haven't been in a long time. Because when you return to those places as your new self, as who you are, as the woman that you are, because me, myself, as a trans Latina, as a trans woman, I've never been to my homeland. I've never been to Mexico, and I really want to know what that feels like. I really want to know what I learned about myself in my country, because I really feel like it will fulfill me and it will give me meaning of myself now. And I just think that is so important, because when you find meaning in other things, it sort of translates into purpose, into meaning, into your vision. And for us, we work in advocacy, we work in something that is so heavy, that is so intense, that we must allow ourselves these moments to sort of tap in and sort of go back into where you come from and where you're from. And the only way that I can connect now is through smell, through like sound. There are times where I might be walking down like Mission or Valencia, and I smell like chile de árbol. And I'm just like, oh my God, like I'm taken back to when my aunt was like cooking like chile de árbol and and I'm just like, wow, like I only have those things now to remember and to connect. And it makes me sad because I want more. I want more other than smell and sound to remember where I come from. But at the same time, I'm so glad that our culture is so diverse and so rich that I can remember so many things by just smelling something, which I think is just so special and so unique. But I also wanted to know, like, what do you hope changes? Like, how do you translate your experience into, I don't know, like for me, as a trans Latina, I really love community. And I really believe that when you come together, you can get a lot of things done. You can make people understand, and you can, make people grasp what it is that you're trying to make them understand. I don't know if that makes sense, but like we come from we come from places in which we are taught to, your neighbor, hola, ¿cómo estás? Buenos días. Like that is community. That is a sense of who you are and where you come from. And I just think that now, like where we are in this political state, there's just so many we find so many reasons to divide ourselves from one another. And I just wish that it wasn't like that. I just wish that we could find a sense of familiarity. And you know, I have similarities with you as I have with that person that is just walking by, you know, and we can find common ground. We can find a way to to get somewhere, to reach something. What about you? And that'll be our final question, sorry.
Okay. I wanna be fast. One of the things I like living here in San Francisco is what you just mentioned, is we came from a culture where one of the things is family, and also the place you used to growing makes you being in, how can I explain this? Can't say it in Spanish, because I don't know how to explain it. But I wanna put this example. It's just like you, Jupiter. I haven't show in my country, Mexico, for the past 20 years. So I miss it. And one of the things I like from San Francisco is that it's very similar as Mexico. You know, when I walk by Valencia, or when I walk by to Mission, or even 24th, all the 24th Mission, it makes me feel like, oh my God, I'm in Tehuacan. I'm from Puebla, Mexico. So I am from this little town named San Miguel Chilac, which is next to Tehuacan, Puebla, which probably everybody knows about Agua Mineral de Tehuacan. So when I go into this area, I'm like, oh my God, I'm in Tehuacan. I feel like I'm in Tehuacan. That makes me feel like, oh my God, I'm in Mexico. I'm in my native country. I'm in native city. So that's what made me feel like, I mean, I was spending time in Raleigh, North Carolina, but actually, I guess my life or my spirit belongs to San Francisco. Even before I came, I was like, probably I'm not in Mexico, but San Francisco makes me feel like I'm actually in my native city. That's what made me feel like probably I have to wait a little bit more to go back to my country. But while I'm here in San Francisco, it feels like I'm at home, and I really don't need much feel at home.
¿Qué puedo decir? Bueno, San Francisco es por el momento mi todo, mi hogar. Tengo personas maravillosas, lugares maravillosos. Nací aquí. Victoria nació aquí. Y creo que haber llegado a San Francisco ha sido la mejor decisión, y sí, haber tomado la decisión de venir a San Francisco fue lo mejor, de lo mejor que me ha pasado en la vida, y por fin soy yo, soy simplemente quien tenía que ser, y San Francisco para mí lo tiene todo. Amigos, trabajo, dificultades, dolor, alegrías y naturaleza, agua, aire y todo lo demás. Así que, this is my home.
Victoria mentions how San Francisco is her everything. It is where Victoria was born. And it is the city that holds everything that she needs to survive, like air, water, family, community, relationships, work, but also struggle and hardship and growth and acceptance.
It's my turn. What can I say about San Francisco? I love San Francisco, but just to visit, to work, but like Sofia or Victoria, I can't say San Francisco is home because to me it's not home. To me,
He has 3 homes.
I got 3 homes, and but I mean, I am so thankful for San Francisco has given me a lot, a lot. Also, Tanya was born in North Carolina, but the other half was born here in San Francisco. The real Tanya was born in San Francisco because I literally changed my name here. I got my surgery here, so, but I don't consider home San Francisco. I just love San Francisco to work and a lot of opportunities, but I don't like the weather. I can't find any parking. Everything's too expensive. So I don't know, but I love San Francisco though. I mean, I love San Francisco, but home is not home to me.
Something to sort of bring us home is we all have found our way to San Francisco, wherever we come from. And one of the core pillars of why the Transgender District, for example, was created was because trans people were migrating to San Francisco from all over the country and from other parts of the world. They were coming to San Francisco, more specifically, the Tenderloin, the Mission, so on and so forth. And the reason why I think that is so important is because, San Francisco is a melting pot. Like regardless of where we come from, we all have this similarity of being trans. And San Francisco is where the trans liberation movement was created.
Yes.
And it would not have been possible if it were not for the experiences and the journeys of people like us, in which we came to San Francisco looking for something, yearning for something. And as we were doing that, we found a home, but we also found a way to inspire other trans people, wherever it is that they might be. So I just want to sort of find those connections in terms of where we come from, where we are now, what this city has given us and what we've given to the city, but also how we found a way to sort of mix all of that and create something so beautiful, like the trans community here in San Francisco. And I just think that is so special that we all just found our way to one another, and I just wanted to finish off with that. But thank you everyone for hearing our stories. I hope you learned something from what each of us had to say, from our experiences, from our journeys, because between all 4 of us, we probably traveled thousands and thousands of miles. And we're here within inches of one another. And I hope you find power in that. But thank you. I want us to give a round of applause to all the ladies on the stage. To the Transgender District and Para TransLatinas for creating space and also for nurturing a new generation of leaders. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Zoom.
She's crazy. She's always like that.
Thank you. And also I want to invite you, if you want to stop by Para TransLatinas.org. It's our website. And also we have our Facebook page. It's Para TransLatinas. And also for Instagram. Yeah.
On Facebook.
Yeah.
And
Whatever you want
the
to.
next Friday, we have a event in Dolores Park. It's the Halloween party. So go with your best customs, and have 3 prizes. Yeah,
3 times. Okay, perfect. So make sure you do that. You follow Para TransLatinas. Also follow the Transgender District on Instagram, on Facebook. And also next Tuesday, just across the street at the Roxy, we're going to be screening Death Becomes Her. It is free. Are you going, Rosaí? ¿Por qué no, verdad? Yeah, just across the street, aquí in the Roxy. Death Becomes Her.
Thanks for the invitation.
Gracias.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay.
Gracias. Voy al baño, Tania. Van a estar aquí.